Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a really fundamental challenge in enterprise technology. We're talking about how to modernize your telephony networks without having to completely rip out and abandon your perfectly functional legacy hardware. It's a huge issue, so let's just dive right in. So, how exactly do you modernize telephony without abandoning those analog endpoints? If you're an IT leader or a CTO, you already know this is a massive CapEx dilemma. You want to migrate to the cloud, right? You want to unlock all the rich features of an IP network, but then you think about the rip and replace nightmare of dealing with every single analog fax machine, dial-up modem, basic desk phone, or, emergency elevator line. The sheer cost and logistical headache of swapping all those out just to reach the cloud, it's enough to stall any upgrade indefinitely.
To help solve this, here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, bridging analog and IP. Number 2, we'll meet the Cisco VG410. 3, key features and benefits. 4, hardware and technical specs. And finally, number 5, software and smart licensing.
All right, Section 1, bridging analog and IP. We're basically dealing with a massive technological divide here. On one side, you've got legacy analog. These are your physical devices, the faxes, the modems, basic non-screen phones, critical infrastructure like elevator lines. They rely on analog tones and physical hard copper wiring. On the other side, you've got modern IP. These are incredibly powerful platforms like Cisco Unified Communications Manager and WebEx Cloud Calling, which operate on packet-switched data and digital protocols. So inherently, these two worlds really struggle to communicate because honestly, they're speaking completely different languages.
Moving on to Section 2, let's meet the Cisco VG410.
So what's the solution? Well, it's the Cisco VG410. This is an iOS XE software-based medium-density analog phone gateway. The best way to think about it is like a flawless, real-time translator. It connects your traditional analog devices directly into a modern enterprise IP voice system. It literally just sits right in the middle, speaking both the legacy language of analog tones and the modern language of IP telephony, making absolutely sure nothing gets lost in translation.
Section 3 now, key features and benefits.
The absolute most crucial point to take away here is this phrase, 100% investment protection. Financially, the VG410 practically justifies itself immediately. Why? Because it lets you continue using your existing, already paid-for analog infrastructure. You don't have to throw away perfectly good equipment or rewire an entire building just because your core network is evolving to IP. It's a massive money saver. And it does all this with some serious horsepower under the hood. We are talking about a high-performance multi-core Intel Xeon processor. It's got dual gigabit Ethernet ports to ensure high availability, which just means way less voice downtime if a WAN link happens to drop. It also uses a software VDSP, which completely replaces the older PVDM4 hardware, giving you true toll-quality voice service. Plus, it bakes in some really critical security features like data sanitization to wipe stored customer data and consent tokens to protect your network from unauthorized software. But hardware is only half the story. The connectivity on this thing is incredibly versatile. It supports a huge array of voice signaling protocols like SIP, MGCP, and SCCP. But what's truly a game changer for those legacy endpoints is its support for T38 fax relay, V15.1 MER modem relay, and NSC-based modem pass-through. Now, I know that's a bit of alphabet soup, but what it actually means is the gateway can smoothly and reliably handle highly sensitive fax and modem traffic over a modern IP network. It lets you scale up at your own pace without breaking the old stuff. Okay, Section 4. Let's look at the hardware and technical specs. The VG410 comes in 3 distinct flavors. Depending on your port density needs, like whether you have a really centralized setup or a more sparsely distributed one, you can go with the 24FXS model, the 24FXS that includes 4 FXO ports, or the high-density 48FXS model. And the best part? All of these fit incredibly neatly into a standard, single one-rack unit chassis. Now I want to zero in on that middle model for a second, the one with the 4 FXO ports. What exactly is an FXO failover bypass? Simply put, it's a designated port that routes analog phone calls directly out to the public switched telephone network if the chassis loses power entirely. This is absolutely brilliant and really highlights Cisco's commitment to business continuity. If the power goes down, those designated critical analog phones can still dial out. That is quite literally a lifesaver for emergency situations.
Finally, Section 5. Let's talk software and smart licensing.
So the big takeaway here is that the VG410 is strictly a smart licensing-only platform. Cisco has entirely moved away from those old, cumbersome product activation keys. Instead, you're using a flexible, unified management pool. You just set up a smart account and a virtual account via Cisco License Central. It's designed to give you this complete, easy-to-manage view of all your software assets, and you're no longer permanently node-locked to one specific piece of hardware. Let's actually break down that licensing progression step by step, especially if your ultimate goal is cloud integration. It's a really logical path. Step 1 is the base Unified Communication or UCK9 license. And the great news is this is included by default out of the box with all VG410s. Step 2 is the SECK9 license. This one's optional, but you definitely need it if you want advanced control and data plane security features. And then, step 3 is the Cloud Calling license. If you want to connect up to WebEx Cloud Calling, you need this license. And keep in mind, it mandatorily requires you to have that SCK9 security license already installed. Pretty straightforward, right? So, tying this whole thing together, the core value proposition is just crystal clear. As the documentation states, the Cisco VG410 provides a low-cost alternative and allows organizations to take advantage of IP telephony with a lower overall IP telephony investment. It loops us right back to that major dilemma we talked about at the very beginning. You get all the incredible cutting-edge benefits of a modern IP architecture without the massive financial sting of replacing every single physical endpoint. Which leaves us with one final vital question to think about. Is your legacy infrastructure actually ready to securely bridge into the AI and cloud era? The Cisco VG410 proves that you really don't have to leave your essential legacy hardware behind just to move forward into the future. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive into the VG410 empowers you to evaluate your own network's readiness. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next one.